Two people wake up at the same time tomorrow morning. Same alarm, 7 a.m. same city. Same kind of apartment. Both of them have the same 24 hours ahead of them. But one of them has a set of habits so quietly powerful that 10 years from now, their life will look completely unrecognizable compared to where they started. And the other one will wake up 10 years from now in almost the exact same situation they are in today. Maybe a little older. Maybe a little more tired. But fundamentally, nothing will have changed. Same financial stress. Same feeling of being stuck. Same Sunday night dread before Monday hits. And the terrifying part is that right now, in this moment, both of these people feel completely fine. Neither of them feels like they are falling behind. Because normal habits feel comfortable. They feel safe. They feel like what everybody else is doing. And that is exactly what makes them so dangerous. Most people think the difference between rich people and everyone else is money. They think wealthy people just got lucky, or started with more, or knew the right people. But here is what the research actually shows, and this is something that will probably change how you see your entire daily routine. Tom Corley spent 5 years studying 233 wealthy people and 128 people living in poverty, tracking their daily habits, their routines, their behaviors. What he found was not about income. It was not about education or background or connections. It was about habits. Specific, repeatable, daily habits that compounded over time into completely different lives. And the gap between those lives did not happen overnight. It happened slowly, quietly, one ordinary day at a time. That is what this video is about. Not get rich quick. Not some secret the wealthy are hiding from you. Just the honest, uncomfortable, genuinely life-changing truth about what 10 years of rich habits versus 10 years of normal habits actually does to a human life. Let us start at the very beginning of the day, because this is where the first split happens, and most people never even notice it. The person following rich habits wakes up before they have to. Not because some productivity guru told them to suffer through 5 a.m. cold showers. But because they have protected the first hour of their day as their own. No phone. No news. No social media. No emails. Just their own mind, their own thoughts, their own intentions for the day ahead. They might read for 30 minutes. They might exercise. They might sit quietly and think through what they actually want to accomplish that day. The specific activity matters less than the principle behind it. They are starting the day on their own terms, with their own focus, before the world gets a chance to hijack their attention. The person with normal habits wakes up when they absolutely have to, hits snooze twice, grabs their phone before their eyes are fully open, and immediately starts consuming news, notifications, other people's highlight reels on Instagram. Before they have even gotten out of bed, their mental energy is already being spent on things that have nothing to do with their own life and goals. This sounds small. It feels small. But multiply this by 3,650 days over 10 years and you start to see what is actually happening. One person has spent roughly 3,000 hours in those morning hours sharpening their mind, building their knowledge, exercising their body, setting intentions. The other person has spent those same hours scrolling. The compound effect of that difference alone is almost too big to fully measure. Now here is where it gets really interesting, and this is something most people never connect. Rich habits are not just about what wealthy people do. They are about what they do not do. And what they do not do is spend their mental energy passively. The average American watches about 4.5 hours of television every single day. That is not a judgment, it is just a number. Over 10 years, that is over 16,000 hours spent watching other people live their lives on screen. Meanwhile, the person following rich habits is using those same hours to read, to learn, to build skills, to work on something that belongs to them. Tom Corley found that 88% of wealthy people read for 30 minutes or more every day, not fiction for entertainment, but books on self-improvement, history, biography, finance, psychology. Things that make them better at thinking, better at understanding people, better at making decisions. And 96% of people struggling financially said they barely read at all outside of what was required for work. Now think about what happens inside a human brain when it is fed 30 minutes of focused reading every single day for 10 years versus 30 minutes of passive entertainment. The reading brain builds vocabulary, pattern recognition, emotional intelligence, and the ability to think in longer time horizons. These are not abstract benefits. These are the exact skills that determine whether someone gets promoted, whether they start something successful, whether they make good decisions under pressure. The television brain gets very good at being entertained. And there is nothing wrong with entertainment. But entertainment does not compound. Let us talk about money now, because this is where the habits create the most visible difference over 10 years. The person following normal habits lives what most people call a normal financial life. They earn money, they spend most of it, they save a little if anything is left over at the end of the month, and they tell themselves they will get more serious about money when they earn a bit more. This is the most common financial plan in America, and it is also the reason why 64% of Americans are currently living paycheck to paycheck according to a 2023 Lending Club report. The problem is not income. The problem is the order of operations. Normal habits say spend first, save what is left. Rich habits say save first, spend what is left. That single reversal, paying yourself before you pay everyone else, changes the entire trajectory of a financial life. The wealthy person is not saving because they have more money. They are wealthy in part because they save before they ever let themselves spend. They automated their savings so that 20% of every paycheck disappeared into investments before they ever had a chance to feel like they had it. And because they never adjusted their lifestyle to include that 20%, they never missed it. Normal habits let lifestyle expand to meet income. Every raise gets absorbed into a slightly nicer car, a slightly bigger apartment, slightly more eating out. Rich habits keep lifestyle relatively flat while income rises, and the gap between income and spending goes entirely into assets. Over 10 years, this gap becomes a canyon. But the real secret is coming next, and this is where most people miss the whole point of what rich habits actually are. It is not just about saving money or reading books. It is about the relationship with discomfort. The person following rich habits has trained themselves, slowly, imperfectly, over years, to do the thing that needs to be done even when they do not feel like doing it. Especially when they do not feel like doing it. They exercise when they are tired. They work on their side project when Netflix is calling. They have the difficult conversation at work that they have been avoiding for 3 weeks. They invest the money even when the market looks scary. Normal habits, on the other hand, are built around comfort. Around doing what feels good right now and dealing with the consequences later. And this is not a moral failing, it is just how human brains are wired by default. Our brains are literally designed to seek pleasure and avoid discomfort in the short term. Rich habits are the result of consciously overriding that default setting over and over until the override becomes the new default. And here is what 10 years of that override looks like. It looks like a person who is not afraid of hard things. Who does not freeze when a decision feels risky. Who can delay gratification long enough for compound interest, compound skill building, and compound relationship building to do their work. That is not a personality trait they were born with. It is a habit they built. Let us talk about relationships, because this part is almost never included in conversations about wealth and habits, and it is one of the most important factors of all. Tom Corley found that 79% of wealthy people spent at least 5 hours a month networking and building genuine relationships with people who were ahead of them, more skilled than them, or operating at a higher level. Not transactional networking where you hand out business cards and immediately ask for favors. Real relationship building, showing up for people, being genuinely interested, giving before taking, staying in touch without an agenda. Normal habits look at networking as something awkward and uncomfortable that you do when you need a job. Rich habits treat relationships as one of the most important investments a person can make with their time. And over 10 years, the difference in the quality of someone's network is staggering. The person with rich habits has spent a decade cultivating relationships with people who open doors, share opportunities, give honest feedback, and raise the standard of what they believe is possible for their own life. The person with normal habits has spent a decade deepening the same circle they have always had, people who are comfortable, familiar, and operating at the same level. There is nothing wrong with those relationships. But if you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, as the famous saying goes, then spending 10 years surrounded by people who are not growing means 10 years of your own growth being quietly limited without you ever realizing it. Now here is something that nobody talks about enough, and it might be the most uncomfortable part of this whole video. Normal habits are designed by other people. Think about this for a second. The 4.5 hours of TV, designed by entertainment companies to keep you watching. The constant phone checking, designed by social media platforms to keep you scrolling. The spending patterns, designed by marketing companies to keep you buying. The food choices, designed by fast food companies to keep you coming back. Normal habits are, in large part, habits that were handed to you by industries whose entire business model depends on you never questioning them. Rich habits, on the other hand, are almost always the result of someone asking, wait, who designed this routine I am following? Is this actually getting me where I want to go? Or am I just doing what everyone around me is doing because it is easy and it is familiar and it requires no thought? The moment a person asks that question seriously and honestly is often the moment their life starts to change. Not because they suddenly have more money or more time or more talent. But because they started making conscious choices about how their hours are spent instead of letting those choices be made for them. Let us fast forward now. Let us actually look at what 10 years looks like side by side. The person who spent 10 years following normal habits is, by most external measures, fine. They have a job, probably the same job or a similar one to what they had 10 years ago. They have some savings, but not enough to feel secure. They have debt, probably still some credit card balance, maybe a car payment, definitely not paying much extra on the mortgage if they have one. Their health is okay but not great. 10 years of skipped workouts and convenience food has added some weight and reduced some energy. Their skills are roughly the same as they were a decade ago because they have not invested much time in deliberate learning. And their financial trajectory, meaning where they will be in another 10 years if nothing changes, looks pretty much like where they are right now. Not a disaster. Not a crisis. Just comfortable enough to stay exactly where they are. That is the real cost of normal habits. Not failure. Just standstill dressed up as stability. Now look at the person who spent 10 years following rich habits. This is the part that should make you stop and really sit with it. Their financial picture looks completely different. Because they saved and invested consistently, even modestly, for 10 years, they have a growing investment account that is starting to generate real returns. The compound interest that felt invisible in year 1 and year 2 is now doing serious work. Their income is higher, not just because of luck, but because 10 years of reading, learning, and building skills made them genuinely more valuable to every room they walk into. Their health is measurably better, not because they ran marathons, but because consistent moderate exercise and reasonably conscious eating over a decade produces a body that has more energy, gets sick less, and thinks more clearly. Their relationships are richer, they have a network of people who respect them, who call them when opportunities come up, who think of them when something good is happening. And their psychology is different in a way that is hard to quantify but impossible to miss. They are calmer under pressure. More confident in decisions. Less reactive to things that used to derail them. Less afraid of uncertainty. These are not personality changes. These are the direct result of 10 years of habits that train the mind the same way exercise trains the body. Here is something that will probably surprise you about the people who successfully build rich habits over a decade. Almost none of them were disciplined all the time. Almost none of them had perfect streaks. They skipped workouts. They made bad investments. They wasted entire weekends doing nothing useful. They fell off their reading habit for 2 months. They spent money on things they should not have. The difference between them and the person who never changed is not that they were perfect. The difference is that they came back. They missed a day and came back the next day. They had a bad month financially and reset without spiraling into giving up entirely. They failed at a goal and adjusted instead of quitting. Rich habits are not about perfection over 10 years. They are about a return rate. How quickly do you get back on track after you fall off? Normal habits have a very low return rate. When things get hard or inconsistent, normal habits say take a break and never quite restart. Rich habits have a high return rate. The disruption happens, the recovery happens faster, and the long-term average stays intact. That is the real engine underneath all of this. So where does this leave you right now? Because this video is not about making you feel guilty about your current habits. And it is definitely not about convincing you that wealthy people are more disciplined or more worthy than everyone else. This video is about one thing, showing you that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is mostly a habits gap, not an income gap, not a luck gap, not a connections gap. And habits, unlike income and luck and connections, are entirely within your control starting today. You do not need more money to start reading 20 minutes a day. You do not need a higher salary to save the first 10% of what you already earn. You do not need a new city or a new job to start protecting the first hour of your morning. You do not need to overhaul your entire life tomorrow. In fact, trying to change everything at once is one of the most reliable ways to change nothing at all. Start with one habit. One small, specific, daily habit that points in the direction of the life you actually want. Do it for 30 days without expecting dramatic results. Because the results in the first 30 days are not the point. The point is proving to yourself that you can override the default setting. That you are capable of doing the thing even when you do not feel like it. That is the foundation everything else gets built on. 10 years from now, you will arrive somewhere. That is just how time works, it moves, and it takes you with it whether you are intentional or not. The only question is whether you arrive somewhere you chose or somewhere that was chosen for you by default. Rich habits are just the daily vote you cast for the life you want. And normal habits are the daily vote you cast for the life that is easiest right now. Both votes compound. Both of them are paid out in full, with interest, 10 years down the road. The person you will be in 2035 is being built right now, today, by the things you do before anyone is watching, before there is any visible payoff, before it feels like it is working. The machine of compound habit does not care about your intentions. It does not care about what you plan to do or what you almost did or what you will start doing next Monday. It only counts what you actually do, consistently, over time. And it pays out exactly what you put in, nothing more, nothing less, not one day early and not one day late. The alarm goes off tomorrow morning. Same time for everyone. The only question is what you do in the minutes that follow. Because that decision, made quietly, made without an audience, made when no one will ever know either way, that is the decision that builds a life. Make it count. In the next video, I am breaking down the exact 5 daily habits that show up in the lives of self-made millionaires across every industry, and more importantly, I am showing you the 5 habits that quietly destroy financial progress even when everything else looks right. Comment habits below and I will pin the most important insight from that video just for you. And if this video hit different today, subscribe, because this is exactly what we do here every single week, and your future self is already watching.